Right, so now we're going to look at tuning the 29er rig. When you're going upwind and tuning your 29er, you want to make sure your shrouds are tuned to the rigging guide that was in the rigging video. And if you're sailing upwind and you can see your forestay bouncing a lot, that is an indication to show that you've not got enough rig tension on, and you can change that on the water by turning your shrouds on more. If you feel like you're really lacking power in the boat, that could be an indication that you've got too much tension on, and again you can change that using the turnbuckles by winding down. When you're setting your jib halyard as you're going upwind, good indication to see if you haven't got enough on is if you've got a clip jib, you see sagging in between the clips. If you've got a zip jib, you can see the jib backing really far at the front because the jib's too deep at the front. You can change the jib halyard on the water by pulling your jib downhaul on. So when you're setting your clew board and jib track when you're going upwind, if it's below 15 knots and you're going upwind, you want to be on top hole on the clew board and then middle pin on the jib track. As it gets increasingly breezier, you can work down on the clew board and then out on the jib track, all the way to middle on the clew board and then pins out when it gets really windy. But you don't want to be going to the bottom hole on the clew board or the inner pin on the jib track. So when you're in lighter winds, you want to be squeezing using the main sheet, so you can have little controls on. As it gets breezier and the boom has to start going off the centre line, so you're starting to ease main, start pulling kicker and downhaul on. If the main sheet is feeling really hard to trim and really unstable, so the crew's trimming it loads, that's a big indication for not having enough vang on. So when you're sailing upwind, the aim is generally to keep the boat as flat as possible with the main as close to the centre line as possible. As the wind picks up to probably around 17 knots, something you can do to help you is pull the daggerboard up a bit, and as it gets even breezier you can pull it up probably in line with the mast foot. This is just to stop the boat tripping in the puffs, so you can use the puffs to accelerate the boat forward. Alright, so a good indication to know if your rig's set up poorly is if the crew's having to trim the main a lot, so it's a bit hectic at the front of the boat and the helm's having to use a lot of rudder input to keep the boat going. That's a good indication to know your rig's not set up properly and something needs to change. Also, generally if you're just going slower and people are overtaking you. Right, so just to summarise the key points of tuning upwind, you want to really make sure your forestay set right. You can do that just by looking to see where it's bouncing or if you feel really underpowered for the wind strength. With the jib, again, in the sub 15 knots, you just want to be on that top hole, middle pin on the jib track. As it gets breezier, going down a hole and then out to the pins. If your crew is sheeting the main a lot, that's a really good indication to show you that you haven't got enough controls on. Again, if the helm is having to steer a lot, having a lot of input with the rudder, again, it's a really good indication to show you haven't got enough controls up. If you feel the boat tripping as the wind builds, and especially as it gets gustier, it's really good to just pull the board up to help you accelerate through the gusts.